Tina, Mary.
Okay, calling to order community preservation meeting on Thursday, December 19th at 2024 at 6:00 p.m. Opening with a public hearing. So I'd like to open the public hearing at 6:00 as well. And start with a presentation from Jen Golson from J.M. Golson to present the draft of the 5-year plan.
Great, I'm happy to be here. Josh, are you hearing me on Zoom?
Yep.
All right, okay, perfect. And am I able to share my screen? Yes, I am. All right, let me get the presentation up. So happy to be here, Jen Goldson. I've been working on and off in Bridgewater for probably around 15 or so years.
Yes, at least 15.
And happy to be back. And I've aged a little bit since I've been here last. So you might not recognize me, Pat. It's been a while.
We look the same. I do too, right?
Anyway, I'm happy to be here. I'm happy my firm was able to help. And some of you may have seen my team member, Austin Smith, doing a lot of the meetings and whatnot and emails. And I gave him the night off. But he worked really hard on this as well. And so I have a short presentation, but the draft plan is online. And hopefully people have had a chance to look at that. We got it up online, oh gosh, about 2 weeks ago, I think. And happy to take comments. It is a draft, so we're not looking for rubber stamp. We really want some feedback if you think this is the right policy direction for the Community Preservation Act funds for the next 5 years. So again, I'm Jen Goldson, founder and managing director of J.M. Goldson. My business has been in business for 18 years now, and I track it by the age of my youngest child, and they're in college now. So we're empty nesters. And then Austin Smith, you've also seen here and there. And then I just want to always start by thanking the committee because you all gave a lot of input, worked really hard, especially on those profiles, getting those right, wordsmithing the draft goals, going through all of the community engagement results, the survey, the forum, the focus groups, and this was I hope this was the most recent. We took this off of your website, so I hope I got everybody there. But you can see I think most of you are here tonight, and you can see what people represent, the different, and then when their term is up, and then one vacancy still, right?
Yes, and we're looking for another member to be appointed from the Housing Authority.
Oh, great. Okay. To replace Stacy.
Yeah.
Good. So I'll go over just a little bit of background for those of you. This might be some repeat, but I don't want to assume that everybody knows exactly what CPA is. So I'll just go through a few slides of what Community Preservation Act even is, what it is in Bridgewater. Then we'll go over what we heard through the community engagement, and then we'll go through the draft. 2 things, guiding principles and the goals for each of the 4 CPA eligible funding areas. And then we just want to take some public comment. Do you like these goals and the principles? Do you think anything should be added or changed? And that's really the bulk. So my presentation won't be too long, but I do want to go over some background, make sure we're all talking about the same thing. So the Community Preservation Act is special to Massachusetts, and the most recent figure, it keeps growing. We have 200 CPA communities now. And you can see this map shows the green are towns that have adopted CPA and the orange are cities. And that's about 57% of all municipalities, but a greater percentage if you look at population. I don't have that number, but I just happen to know that. And then CPA really just allows towns to tax themselves a little bit more. They add a small surcharge onto local property taxes. And I'll tell you a little bit more about what that is. In Bridgewater, you have a 2% surcharge on your local property taxes, but there are 2 types of exemptions. You have exemptions for low-income households, and for the first 100,000 of residential property value is also knocked off the top. And so far, Bridgewater's collected just about 14.5 million, and you've done a lot of great things with it, including the restoration of this beautiful building that we're sitting in now. And you can see that it's a combination of both a state match and a local surcharge. So locally, you've got about 2.8 million that's been generated since that 2005 vote. And then the state has given you about 3.7 million. Now that's out of monies that are collected at the Registry of Deeds. They're collected on basically any transaction. It doesn't matter if it's a transaction that's in a CPA community or not. And only CPA communities get the benefit of those funds. So I think it's awfully smart that you adopted in 2005 and had the benefit of $3.7 million of state funds, which other communities don't have if they didn't have a CPA. So that's my pitch for congratulating you. I think it's always very smart. All right. So this was the prior CPA plan. I think that was the second one that we had helped you with years ago. And you adopted that back in 2020. So I guess that was about a month after the pandemic started. You adopted that plan, and probably a lot's changed, but also a lot stayed the same. And one of the things we learned that I'll talk about is not much changed in terms of your priorities. A little bit, but not a lot since then. And our goal was to update that. We really didn't start from scratch. We took the resource profiles you had and updated those numbers. We looked at your spending and appropriations since that time and updated those numbers. And then we went out and asked folks, do you still agree with these goals and these principles? Do you want any changes to them? And that was our job. And this document has been a guide for you all and for town council when appropriating CPA funds, when deciding what to spend the funds on, what to invest the funds in. And the idea is that the update will be your guide for the next 5 years. So let's move on. So our approach was to, as I mentioned, update all the data pieces. So we have a profile on each of those 4 eligibility areas: housing, open space, recreation, and a store. And we worked really closely with you and the different boards you represent that have specialties in these areas to help make sure that we updated them appropriately. And then we also did the survey focus group on each of the 4 CPA elements, the virtual forum, and now this public hearing. And then from there, we're hoping we'll make any final revisions that you can direct us to tonight, or if you want, not much is going to happen over the next 2 weeks. So if you want a couple weeks to give us some comments, that's totally fine. And then in January, we'll do a final update and send it off to you for whenever your January meeting is, which I don't think we're coming to. I can't remember, but
You're welcome to.
Yeah, I actually am out of town a lot in January.
Okay.
I decided not to go away in the holidays because my entire team is gone. So I thought, well, somebody needs to stay here. So I'm leaving when they all get back. So that was our little compromise. All right. So that's the schedule. We've been working since June, and you can see that we've had several meetings with you. And we started off with updating those profiles, and then we did those focus groups on the survey. The virtual forum was in November. Which I think I recognize some of the names on Zoom here. I think some of you, or maybe all of you, were at that. And then we were really working on the draft plan all through the fall and putting it together, and then finalizing it for that early release in December for as a draft for comments. And we're here middle of December doing the public hearing, and then we'll work on that final draft for you. And it should be ready to go in January. So here's any questions about our scope and what we did and everything before I move on to some of the main themes we heard in the engagement? And Josh, maybe you can help me if there's someone online who wants to speak. So I'm not always good at noticing that. So
if anybody who wants to raise their hand, that'll be helpful.
Great. Yeah, and just interrupt if there's someone who has a question or wants to have me clarify anything that I say. All right, so how did we reach people? I just mentioned this. The focus groups, the survey, and the virtual public forum. And then what did we hear? So we heard a lot of really agreement with things that you were already doing and already prioritizing from your prior plan. So it was a lot of really validation, which is always good. Every time you do an update, it doesn't mean you have to change everything. But it's nice to check in and make sure that the priorities you've established are still important. And we did have some tweaks and changes. But for the most part, people still want to see prioritizing holistic planning. So making sure that projects are well thought out and making sure that they fit in with the bigger plans that the town has, that the town is established, is working on, fits in with your comprehensive plan, with your open space plan and whatnot. Carlton?
Is the image up the wall, old wall, is that here in Bridgewater?
That's Stanley.
It's the Ironworks part?
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't realize it was that long. Thank you.
They took the graffiti off. They cleaned it.
And I like to sprinkle in some.
That's
Yeah,
great.
it
Thank
doesn't
you.
necessarily have exactly to do with these points, but I like to
No, that's
show you
great.
guys your beautiful resources.
No,
as go.
I don't know how many people realize there are some structures from the old ironworks in the park.
Still remaining,
Yeah.
right. The other piece was being really proactive about management of your existing resources. You have a lot of open space and recreation resources, but not instead of pursuing new things. So really the community wanted to see, let's talk about how we can be proactive and strategic about maintenance of our existing resources or improvements. As you all know, you can't fund maintenance with Community Preservation Act funds, but you certainly can fund preservation and rehab in recreation resources, for example. But you can also ask that applicants, as you do, show us, well, if we're going to improve this property, how will you be maintaining it? That was something that still came out as important to do. And then also pursuing new projects in open space and recreation. So even expanding beyond what you currently have. So really doing both. Sometimes in communities we hear, that may seem like, duh, of course we want to do both. But we actually hear different things in different communities. Sometimes we hear we really want to focus on those existing resources because we think we need to be maybe better stewards than we've been able to be in the past. Other communities feel like we're doing a pretty good job with being really good stewards, and now we just want to expand because we don't have enough. But what we heard you say is we want to do both. And then the third piece of the slide that we heard through the engagement is really supporting more affordable housing options. I think people are really proud of what CPA was able to help with the McElwain School. And looking especially projects for seniors, helping people stay in the community, especially 55 and over. Which I'm almost 55 and over, so now as I'm getting closer, I'm like, really, that's so young, but I understand it. And then and also looking at housing in areas close to services, commercial areas, walkable areas, etc. So those are some of the things we heard, and you'll see when I get to the goals and the principles that we really tried to honor what we heard, and so this is really carried into that. So it seemed repetitive, but that's just because we're trying to work with what people really wanted. All right, what else did we hear? Focusing funds on the downtown area, especially if it can help with historic preservation and maybe housing projects together. There could be adaptive reuse projects that create housing in historic buildings. Things like that are seen as ideal. Because it can also boost economic development. Even though economic development is not one of those 4 categories, historic preservation and housing can absolutely help spin off with helping to support your downtown and economic goals. Pursuing opportunities to strengthen partnerships and leveraging CPA funding with grants. So I think you've seen that in may not all, but many of your funds that you've approved, that their CPA funds isn't the only thing that's funding this project. You look at a big project like McElwain School, and there were lots of funding sources on that. So looking for more of that. How can you leverage those other funds? It doesn't always have to be funds. Sometimes you can leverage with sweat equity, volunteer donations, et cetera. But looking to grow those dollars, grow the impact of your dollars. And then looking at accessibility. We heard accessibility really in various categories, but focusing as a priority on accessible open space and recreation resources. Accessible meaning people can get there, and people of all mobility abilities can get and use these resources. So you'll hear a little bit more about that as well. All right, so that's what we heard. So let me just pause before I get into the guiding principles and draft goals. Does anyone have a question about the engagement or any of those main things that we heard, or I mean, you've actually heard this piece before, so,
Yeah.
yeah, and anybody online, if you have a question before I get into the guiding principles, and we'll certainly take comments, of course, at public hearing at the end, but just as I go, if you had anything on what I just said. I don't see anything right now, so I'm gonna keep going. All right, so we've got these guiding principles that really relate to all your applications. They're basically, what is a good application, no matter what CPA category it's in. And then there are goals for each of those 4 CPA categories that are specific to that area. And the goals really help you set those priorities. So if you have 5 projects under open space, let's just pick on open space as an example, and you know you don't have enough money to fund them all, how do you pick which ones will be, worthy of your funds? You look at those open space goals and say, well, which ones meet our goals in the best way? Are there any that meet more than one goal? And you start to rank it based on that. The principles, you really look at all of the applications before you and you ask, are they aligning with comprehensive planning in the community? Do they align with what our comprehensive plan says? Or is it something that's contrary to what we want as a community? Any other guiding documents, guiding documents and policies within the community? You want to make sure that it's aligning and not kind of going off on its own with its own priority. And then you want to look at, is it leveraging funds and to what extent? And if you have lots of projects before you that you're looking at, I know you take them on a rolling basis, but you sometimes know what's coming in and you can kind of evaluate, is it leveraging funding? Can you encourage the applicant to leverage more funding? If they come in asking for just the CPA is going to fund this, you may push back and say, well, what other funding sources are out there to reduce the CPA burden? Compatibility between CPA categories. So just because let's say it's a recreation project, is it still compatible with our open space goals? Is there like a habitat component to this recreation project that could boost the compatibility with another goal? Is a housing project compatible with a historic preservation goal? Or are they proposing to knock down a historic resource? You might not want to fund that because it may not be compatible across categories. So this is encouraging you to look across the goals in other categories to make sure that a project is compatible with the other goals. Does that make sense too?
Sure. Synonym for compatibility could support multiple goals. Would that be another way to think about compatible?
I think you could say support or at least not contrary to.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it could go both ways. All right. And I skipped the last one. The last one here is demonstrating that this project will have long-lasting community benefits. And that will be different things for different types of projects. But the long-lasting piece is important so that your investment is put to the best use possible. All right, so that applies again to all kinds of projects. And then we look at the goals in each of those 4 areas. So this is shortened. I have the full verbiage on another sheet on the actual plan, but just for sake of fitting things on the slide, I wanted to give you the gist. Now, just know a lot of these, what we added to this was examples of properties. I took that off for the slide just because it was so many words, but I'm happy to read through those if you want the full verbiage. But historic preservation, preserve and rehab historic properties to improve public accessibility, use, and awareness. And so I said earlier on when we went over the public comments, that accessibility theme that came up a lot. So that's carried in you. I think you'll see it in every category, actually.
Quick question.
Of course.
Rehab is equivalent also to restore.
Okay.
That gets me
Thank you for
confused.
asking. Yes, so it is confusing because the Community Preservation Act statute doesn't define what restore means, but it uses that word. And so in historic preservation, if this statute doesn't define a specific meaning, then we need to go into what would a historic preservationist say is an ordinary definition. And so we look at the Secretary of Interior standards. And I don't want to be totally nerd out on this, but restore actually has a very specific meaning to historic preservationists. It means to bring something back to the way it was in the past at a certain time And it means you actually tear out things that were after that time. So if you were to bring the Academy building back to, when was it? 18 something? I don't
Well,
know.
this part's 1898.
Okay, so if you were to restore the Academy building, you'd rip out everything that wasn't built in 1898. That's normally not what people are looking to do with CPA funds. They're typically looking to rehab. They're looking to make a building useful for a current function in modern day. They're looking to make it more accessible, bring it up to code, electricity codes, plumbing codes, fire safety, all those things. They want to make it functional for meetings like this, hybrid meetings, etc. Like you want to make it comfortable, you want air conditioning. So all of that is rehabbing a historic property to make it useful for a current day use. So we went through and if there was a reference to restore, we actually think you meant rehab. So we went ahead and modified that. Preserve just means protected from harm. So if it's broken, fix it. That's basically what preserve means. If the roof is leaking, you fix it. If the roof is just getting old, it's not a problem yet, but you know it will be a problem sometime soon, then that's a rehab because you're making it useful for a longer life, longer useful life.
What's the difference, Jen, between regular maintenance of a roof and
Yes.
CPA funding to rehab it?
Okay. I don't want to use a roof as an example. All right, I'll try.
Okay.
Roof is
So-
hard.
Let's say a couple shingles flew off in a storm. I'd say that's probably regular maintenance. That probably happens from time to time. Let's say the roof is literally leaking and you're getting water coming into the building. That would be preserved because it's already actually broken and causing harm to the structure. If it's just beyond its useful life, let's say the warranty, I don't know, somebody else probably knows more about roofs. Let's say it was a 20-year warranty or something. 30, let's say it was 30 years and now it's 35 years old and there's nothing wrong with it, it's not broken, but it's 35 years old and you want to proactively put on a new roof because you know that's rehab. So maintenance is like things, I like to use paint as it's an easier example for me. I'm not a carpenter or anything like that, so I don't know a lot about fixing up buildings, but paint, you've got to repaint something every 10-ish years. Is that fair to say? That's regular maintenance. If it's on a regular schedule, you know the paint's gonna last 10 years, you got to repaint it. That's just regular maintenance. If it had been like 50 years and the whole thing was like falling apart and the clapboards were falling off and everything was leaking, that would be preservation because it's so far gone. So maintenance it's a kind of a matter of degrees.
Okay.
Regular maintenance is something that you just got to do to be a good steward. Rehab is something that to extend the useful life of something. It's usually a bigger kind of a project. And then preserve is like, it's broken, I got to fix it.
Okay, thank you.
Another one, I don't want to dig too, because we got a lot to cover.
Yeah.
But an example, the interior of a historic building, preservation, I can hear you, rehab, but preserve. For example, we have a building that has a pocket door that was probably built in the 1700s, 1800s. That would be preserved. It's got an old stage that would be something we would want to preserve and probably couldn't take out.
That's right.
So I'm thinking about interior
Yeah.
spaces.
Yeah, so interior, if you're really preserving something that's original to the building or historic, even if it's not technically original,
Okay,
that would be preserved.
so something that's 70 years old and maybe partitions that were put up at one point, something like that would be an interior issue.
Yeah, and you just have to, if it's 70 years old, you gotta decide if it's historic or not.
Okay.
I don't think it would be, but it depends on the context.
I'm not the expert, but I just want to clarify the question about that because we do have a building in town that could be reused and it has a preservation restriction on it. And the state holds that preservation restriction, but there's an interior set of things that need to be worked on if we're going to reuse it. So I'm just trying to get clarity into what we may or may not do.
And if you know, the real definitive source, actually the CPA statute cross references, the Secretary of the Interior standards for rehabilitation, when you're looking at a project that says it's rehabbing something interior or exterior, if you go to those standards, there's a whole book explaining what it is. That's kind of the definitive guide.
How to, what to use, that type of thing.
Yeah.
Great, thank you.
And how to make sure that the work they're proposing will maintain the integrity of the historic characteristics.
That's a good word.
All right, the next one we have is about historic artifacts and documents through digitization and permanent facilities that are, proper for storage of those artifacts. That's all part of preservation. Historic resources, preserving them from demolition or deterioration. You could do this through historic designations like the National Register designation that CPA funded for the McElwain School many, many years ago was instrumental in ultimately saving that building, preserving it, and creating housing. The National Register nomination didn't necessarily intend for it to be housing, intended that whatever happens there, the building is preserved. And it offered those tax incentives, those historic tax credits at both the state and the federal government. Without that designation, that pro forma would have looked much different and may not have been feasible. So that's why we say historic designation can actually help these resources, depending on the type of designation it is. And we said, and other mechanisms. There are other ways to preserve historic resources. You could buy a preservation restriction like you did on the Keep Homestead. There's other mechanisms. 4 is rehab eligible commercial facades and other historic resources. So looking at how can we use CPA funds to preserve privately owned buildings. You have to show a public benefit. So you probably want to get a preservation restriction on anything like that. And then another public benefit could be maybe it is converted to some affordable housing units. So that was an idea that came out. And then the 5th is preserve and rehab outdoor public historic places. So you think of open space as primarily under the open space category, but Bridgewater and many other communities actually have a lot of historic resources in their open spaces as well, including, and this was one of the changes we made based on your comments and public comments, is including places of Indigenous significance. And so that's why I took a picture of the ticket, or use this picture here to just highlight that historic preservation isn't all about buildings. It can also be about historic places and ruins and archaeological sites and things like that. All right, I'll keep going, and then happy to take questions throughout though. Under community housing, we have the first one is create and preserve housing options for residents above 55 years of age, so affordable housing options for above 55, and then including prioritizing locations that provide that easy access to services and are accessible as well. The second one, create affordable and community housing through adaptive reuse of historic properties. So you can see we tried to make some consistencies because we already mentioned that, but in the flip side, when we're looking at historic preservation, and now we're mentioning it again but using the lens of housing. And then 3 is supporting a variety of housing, affordable and community housing options for young individuals, young families, veterans, and other groups that need housing. And then 4 is preserve and ensure long-term affordability. So sometimes deed restrictions will expire, and CPA funds can be super helpful to make sure that the properties maintain affordability. Other times they just need some work, especially if it's already been funded with CPA funds. You can actually do some rehab work on those if they were created through CPA funds. You can preserve affordable units when they weren't created with CPA funds. I think you have done some housing authority work. Is that right?
We have one project with Housing Authority for restoration of windows and doors, that kind of thing.
Yeah, so that would be an example of preserve, because rehab you can only do if you created that resource, and you didn't create a housing authority resource. So anything you do there needs to preserve those affordable units. So it's protecting those units from harm. So let's say the windows were leaking, they're broken, they need to be fixed. That's what you would call preservation.
Thank you.
All right, and then under active recreation goals, so we kind of stuck passive recreation in with open space because trails and things sort of go naturally along with open space, and we put this more as active recreation. Rehab and restoring existing town parks and playgrounds, and we specifically, mentioned some places like Jenny Leonard Playground and a few others. The second one, rehab existing or create new facilities to improve safety. And again, you see that public access, the accessibility place. And here we mentioned Legion Field, as that actually came up several times throughout the process. Create a comprehensive and connected recreational bike and walking path network. So I emphasize the word recreation because CPA can't fund transportation projects, but it can fund recreation projects. So you just have to distinguish what is the purpose of this pathway or this bike network and walkway network? Is it for recreation or is it for transportation? And sometimes it's both, but you're primarily looking for recreation. And then we've got create inclusive outdoor recreation facilities designed to meet the needs of an older population and individuals with special needs. And I have a picture from
Like that swing.
a guidebook. Yeah, that's not Bridgewater, but I just have a picture of a guidebook of, oh, what does that look like? How do you do that? So that's an example. You might not like that particular one, but all right.
Nice shot of Legion Field too. There's their shot.
All right, and then we've got preserve Bridgewater's farms and agricultural lands, which I know you've been doing for a long time and continue to do. Create new as well as preserve and rehab existing natural open space and passive rec. So this is getting at that idea of both new and preserve and rehab. So we want to do everything. We want to create new, we want to preserve and rehab existing ones. And then preserve and acquire strategic private properties, open space properties, especially along waterfront, sorry, I left that comma there, that was me, along water resources and river corridors. And this included, I was trying to speak and I can't think of what it is. Canoe, like, what is it?
Launches,
Canoe,
kayaking launches.
yeah, that kind of thing, which I know you've also done before, but and continuing that access to waterways. And then create, preserve, and acquire neighborhood level open spaces. So this is like pocket parks, community gardens, things that, they're open to the public, but they really are kind of very local to the neighborhood and really support the neighborhood. Especially in places that may not have a lot of access to parks right now. So looking at that. All right, and I think, okay, so that was everything. I'm happy to go back to any of those slides or even bring up the actual language because I told you I shortened everything. But yeah, that's my presentation and I'm happy to take more questions, comments. If you already see something you want changed, please let me know now. But also we have a few weeks. If you could just let me know by, why don't we say by the end of the month? That would be great. And then in early January, Austin and me to the extent I'm around, leaving on January 3rd. So it's probably going to be Austin making any adjustments that you, yeah.
Thanks, Jen. Are there any comments or questions from virtual people? It sounds funny, virtual people who are watching virtually.
You're real people.
You're real people.
And you like people?
Yeah, or those of us here, committee comments, CPC committee comments, or public comments.
I'd just like to say,
I had
Yeah.
Hi guys, I had a comment about the historic preservation goals slide. Should we add acquiring like relevant historic artifacts to that?
Yeah, Jeffrey, thank you. So yeah, we really don't have anything about acquiring right now. We have a bunch of preserve and rehab, but thinking about the artifacts, I'd love to hear folks' thoughts, but that's certainly something that's eligible.
That's good point, Jeff, especially we're looking at the Edson book, which is in it.
Well, we have
Position.
acquired historic buildings. We have the one at Lake Nip that we acquired. so there is a precedent for that. So I think it's a good idea to put it in as a goal for historic preservation.
So both artifacts and buildings then?
Yes, yes.
I don't know, do you know what process you want to use? I mean, I'm happy to incorporate that. Do you want any formal voting tonight, or do you want to just listen and decide later, or? We'll want some direction for early January though.
Do we have a consensus from CPC for that? To add those in?
I'm absolutely in favor of having that because there are historic books that are relevant to Bridgewater. And what I understand is in order for something like that to happen, the local historical commission needs to indicate that it is significant in the culture,
Correct.
history, that kind of thing. But I think having that in there is really important. We don't know what books are going to show up.
Right.
Or other written documents. But I want to hear from other people. I'm talking too much.
Okay, the other comment, Mark, you had?
No, I'm really happy to see all the steps that the committee has taken and very comprehensive plan. I like the whole way it was all structured with the focus groups, the community survey, and the virtual public forum. I think that's really important that the public has input into it. You guys are all great community-minded people, so I just came to lend my support and to see everything. I was in one of the earlier stages, but I haven't been lately. So I just did want to see the active recreation goals. I didn't get to see that slide, so I just wanted to 5 of them. Okay. Thank you. You said this is posted on the town website?
It is. This presentation isn't, but it will be part of the recording.
And the actual draft plan is up on our website.
Okay.
So like it's a huge file, so it's a link.
Okay.
Do you want to go back to what they were talking about? Do you want to go back to talking about
The
the
historic.
change on the historic? We're going to take a vote, or we're going to?
I think what, I'm going to speak for Gina, but I think what just having everybody agree that is good. It's a consensus process.
Just a consensus?
Right.
Okay.
Oh, we can
That's
take
allowed.
we can take a vote too when we
It's up to
close
you.
the hearing.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't mind me giving some advice, what we can do is make modifications based on the discussion. And then when you see it in January, you'll have to take a vote then. I mean, you don't have to, but
Good idea.
in order to approve the plan or adopt the plan, you'll want to vote. And so you can always change your mind then. But I think just having some sense that there was discussion and really no objections to the changes is helpful for us. And then the official voting, that might streamline it rather than like
that
taking a
works.
vote on every
Right.
single thing.
We can take when we close the hearing, we can take a vote on like adding the artifacts to it, just based on the discussion, just so it's a formal vote.
Right, that's fine too.
One comment, if you make changes, can you do a track change?
Yes,
Or highlight them.
Yeah, track
Yes.
change, deletions, additions, that would be helpful for some of us that
yes. You
don't
have to-
remember everything.
Absolutely. Yeah, what we usually do, and I'll make sure Austin knows this, is when to do a red line version so that you can easily see where we changed it, and then a clean version so that if sometimes it gets hard to, depending on how many changes, sometimes it's hard to read with all the red lines, so we'll send you both the clean and the red lined.
Good, thank you. Any other comments? CPC members?
Anybody online?
Okay, don't everybody speak at once. Okay, public comments from people attending virtually. We have quite a few tonight, virtual attendees.
Would it be helpful if I stopped the share? I know it's hard to see everybody.
I like having something up to look at so people can refer back. We have another guest coming. Yes.
Right, great.
Not seeing other comments, I would like to ask Gina, how should people get comments? Should they email Josh or
I believe Austin had said to send to him,
send it to him? Okay,
right?
Okay. Yeah,
Should
so,
copy me too.
yeah, so let me
So
post
we see it too.
Austin's email in the chat so everybody can see it.
But public folks may or may not have that email, so we need to make sure if anybody wants to.
Yeah.
Additional.
Right.
Oh, actually, I'm only allowed to post to Josh, it looks like, so.
Yeah.
Is Josh still here?
Yeah, so Austin's email,
So that you can chat everybody.
oh, I can.
Yeah, we also have a CPC email account.
CPC box too.
So, well, if people want to send it to Austin, I'll just verbally say, it's Austin, AUSTIN, at my company name, which is on the bottom of this slide, jmgoldson.com. So it's Austin, AUSTIN, at jmgoldson.com. And then what is the info email or the CPC email?
Josh, correct me if I'm wrong, it's cpc@bridgewaterma.org.
So either one of those emails and we'll get it. You could forward to us anything that you get.
Right.
So if people could comment by the end of the month, that would be really helpful. And then we can stay on our schedule to get you a draft in January.
Great. One of the things, not doing a lot of public hearings, that I omitted, this was advertised in the Enterprise, December 5th and 12th, so we met on 2 prior weeks. The legal notice was the Bridgewater Community Preservation Committee, CPC, will be holding a hybrid public hearing December 19th, 2024 at 6:00 p.m. Room 201A in the Academy Building, 66 Central Square, to ascertain the needs, possibilities, resources, and preferences for community preservation, and to hear comments and questions on the draft 2025 to 2030 Community Preservation Plan with submission guidelines for community preservation project proposals. The draft plan is posted at, here's the location. All interested parties are encouraged to attend. I think I was supposed to have read that at the start, but just that it was posted. I want to thank Jen for coming for the presentation and Austin for all his work and all the participants. I can't remember the last time we've had a full committee ourselves, but the last time we've had so many public. I'd like to recognize Mark Lindy as a counselor who's here as well. And as Jen said, submit comments. If you haven't read the plan yet, it's just a short 112 pages. But it's very thorough. So I encourage everybody to read it. If you have comments, send them to Austin at JM Golson. Jen gave the address. And I'd like to thank everybody.
Just one, comments, especially if there's something we missed or in the process, like we did just one recently, that kind of general comment is really appreciated. It may be easier to do. Full disclosure, I did do some editorial comments and I sent in because that's who I am. I read documents and I find things. But general comments specific to the goals, that kind of thing, we really would appreciate more input if you want to do it. Thank you.
And when we close the hearing, we'll just take a quick vote on that change to our addition. Okay, if there's nothing else, we'll.
You don't need me for anything?
No.
We need you to finalize the document.
Yes.
Closing the public hearing at 6:44. CPC members, just a quick motion and vote on, as Jeff had mentioned, adding historic artifacts and buildings, acquiring. So if somebody could make a motion for that.
So moved.
Second,
Second,
okay, good. Any discussion? I thought it was a great suggestion, Jeff. All in favor?
No, you do roll call. Yep.
Yep, roll call. Carlton,
Yes.
Sheena, yes. Maureen,
Yes.
Pat,
Yes.
Bill,
yes.
Jeff,
Yes.
and Harry, yes. Great. Okay, that's passed. Jen, you can
Thank you.
add that in. Thank you so much.
Jen, I just wanted to say that I really like closed captioning.
Oh,
in the
goodness.
presentation.
We have
We-
it on automatically. Yeah.
We don't have that in our meetings, virtual meetings, and it's very helpful, I have to say. And
Yeah,
great job.
I think Zoom, I put it on my PowerPoint setting, but Zoom, I believe, also has a setting that you can put the closed captions. It doesn't always get the words exactly right, especially local words. It probably messes up, but. All right, well, thank you, everyone. It was great to see you. And
Great, thank you,
hopefully
Jen.
it'll be not another 5 years, but let me know if
That's
we can
right.
be helpful.
We'll think.
Okay, the next meeting is January 22nd.
Okay, and I know I'm not able to come, but if it's online, Austin might be able to come.
Okay,
Okay,
great.
thank you.
Thank you so much.
27th.
22nd.
Second.
Yep. Okay, moving on with the agenda. Yep, back up here. Chair's comments. I have no comments, other than to thank everybody for being here tonight. It's much appreciated. Public comments? Any of the
Well,
public?
Jane, I came in late, I apologize. My name is Tom Origi, and I've been on the Recreation Committee for over 30 years. And I just want to, whatever support, I'm here to support the recreation, whatever monies that are available. We would really like to see us to do some enhancements of Legion Field, some enhancements in the, there's a building over to the left that we have to tear down. We have to build a new one. There's just a lot of enhancements that we need on the field, and we really need the money to do so. Also down the road, we also have pickleball has really taken off, as everyone knows, and I'm supporting whatever we can do. I want to support it, and we need to get names. Jenny Lynn Park is another big too. That it's crazy not to accept the hand that the builders are offering to us. So I emphasize, please, whatever we can do. You know, with all my years involved in the recreation, I think we have a pretty good understanding of what the town needs, and I urge you to make a decision in favor of the recreation facilities.
Mhm.
I will thank you very much for that. And we have a simple form for eligibility because there are some conditions, like you can't put, CPA cannot pay for artificial turf, but it could be part of a project if somebody else pays for it.
Good, yeah, I don't think there's so many things we need. I appreciate that, thank you.
Thanks, Tom.
Are you guys gonna put in like a list of things without, that you wanna do with amounts roughly?
Yes, I think Jimmy Small has put a whole thing together. Didn't he put some finances on it too?
Yeah.
It's
Do we
pretty
have,
extensive.
do we have that yet here, or that's we're gonna start
Their eligibility form?
Yeah.
Not yet.
for that?
January.
Oh, it's through January.
Yep,
He's been doing that for a couple of years though, since he took over.
Right.
But your recreation commission is gonna submit it to CPC in January?
right, for the
Good.
multifunctional fields,
No, that's,
altogether.
well, that's
Understood.
for the old high school, right?
Yeah.
This, what you're talking about is different though, right?
Right.
Legion.
Yes.
Yeah, we don't have,
So is that gonna come in January?
whenever Jim gets it together.
So it will be an
Because Legion
eligibility
Field
form
does
with
need
the
a lot of
list.
work. The basketball courts and some of the baseball fields.
He's got things budgeted.
What building are we talking about?
It's the one by the Babe Ruth field, the big baseball field
Yeah,
to the left.
Yeah.
And it was storing a lot of equipment that they jumped. And they tried to think about rehabbing it, and it's just too far gone. So they might put a building up there or.
Yeah, well, I think that's the big plan too, he has the storage,
Okay.
something to keep the storage, area.
Right,
the tennis
there's,
courts they need to be redone too.
right.
Yeah,
There's a lot that Parks and Rec has to look at, and we've talked about it. We just need to put together a list. What I was saying for January was for the multifunctional fields.
The one that Mark and Frank are working on.
Yeah, but we will put together a list.
That's
that was the
what
one at the old high school.
doing the time.
Yeah, the old high school is
Yeah.
another big project.
Yeah.
But it'll, yeah, but the good thing is about these multi-purpose fields and it'll help, it'll help, and improve the town's recreational facilities for years ahead. 10 years, these fields can really, the growth of our town and our youth, it'll be a great program that we can offer.
Mhm.
Did,
Good.
did you guys include the tennis courts at the old high school? Because the superintendent.
Yes, they're thinking about taking them down because they.
Well,
what the
no,
town-
the four,
Can we?
Rehabilitating the four that are there.
Right.
But taking the old ones
yeah, the
out.
four out.
The ones that are but Pleasant Street.
The ones that don't have a
The
fence around.
the ones that are but Pleasant Street will be down, the others won't. This is a great discussion. I think Parks and Rec has to look at it first to see definitely what they want done, put together a plan with costs and things, and submit it to community preservation.
That's what Jimmy's doing.
Right, and that's what's in the process now.
To clarify, that would be an eligibility because we can then go through and say what is and isn't.
Right,
That way they can figure out all their funds.
right.
Great.
It needs it, though.
Okay, yeah, Parks and Rec needs to look, plus I think, speaking as a Parks and Rec person, that what the town has budgeted to Parks and Rec over the last, God knows how many years is pathetic, for lack of a better word. We also need to meet with the town officials during the budget process too, to see, to have, we have 1.5 employees, which is not enough. So it is being worked on. Rest assured, guys, from Parks and Rec. Okay, we're gonna hit the other fields further down. Okay, any other public comments? Okay, hearing and seeing none. Approval of meeting minutes, we have 2 of them. We have September 25th and we have October 23rd. We take them separately. I guess September 25th. I know that if you looked at it and saw it in color, that was me. I forgot to turn the pink back to black. So it's all in pink, but partially in pink. Motion to accept the September 25th minutes.
So
Motion
moved.
to accept the September 25th.
Okay, Harry, a second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? Okay. Okay, roll call. Carlton,
Yes.
Gina? Yes. Oh. I'm sorry, Matt, Jeff,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes,
Pat,
Yes.
Maureen,
Yes.
and Harry.
Yes,
Okay, unanimous. Okay. Now the October 23rd minutes.
motion to approve the October 23rd meeting minutes.
Okay, second.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? None? Okay, roll call, Carlton?
Yes.
Gina? Yes. Maureen?
Yes.
Pat?
Yes.
Bill?
Job, Richard. Nice job. I would have been a home run. Work for you. Excellent.
Okay, Harry?
Yes.
Okay, and Jeff?
Yes.
Okay, unanimous. Okay. Review of financial reports. Quickly, we're in very good shape. We have, if my math is right, we have active funds that are encumbered for various projects. We have 2.4 million to available funds. Thank you. We're still ahead on the surcharge, tax surcharge. Not a lot, but for 4 quarters, it was estimated 875. For 2 quarters, we have close to 386. So that's ahead too.
56% of our goal.
Gina, can I ask a question on that?
Right.
That 2.4 doesn't include anything we're expecting back from like Styles and Highland, that 483.
No.
So that'll come back and be added to that.
Right.
That's not already subtracted in the math, correct?
Correct.
Correct.
This is strictly looking at what's been appropriated against what's in our accounts.
How many refunds, so to speak, we expect to be under budget on Styles and Highland?
Styles and Hart.
Under budget?
Correct.
What we
Significantly.
appropriated, and also that 483 roughly from the state?
Yeah.
Right.
We can talk about it in a little bit, but together, the state reimbursement, which is being worked on now, would cover some of the costs. So we had to put the money out, but it'll come back. And then if we're underspent for the 1.3 million that the town appropriated.
How much did it
It
go
goes back.
back? Like 800 or 900, is that correct?
It was close to 900.
The contract is about 800,000 to do the park, and then we paying for the engineering in our money. And then the grant is about 480, but there's matches. They tell us what they will reimburse, so I'm not sure we'll get full amount, but
I
moving
just
forward.
wanted to make sure that 2.4 accounts for that
Right,
money appropriated, even though we may get some of that back.
Correct.
And it doesn't account for the grant.
correct.
So potentially we have
more than that.
Potentially, we could be up to close to,
3 million.
3 million.
yeah, close to.
Right. Okay, good question, Pat. Okay. Applications. Any more questions or comments on the financials?
Was that emailed to us?
Yeah, Josh did amend
It
it.
was a second.
Yeah, it was the second email. I think he sent it out yesterday. Okay, old business, applications received. We still have the preliminary Hanson's Farm application. We're waiting for a final application that's being worked on that will include the cost and any deliverables.
That's behind the scenes, that's moving forward.
Yeah.
Right.
We met with the acting town manager, Blythe, this week, and she said that things are moving forward. The contract calls for, I think it's 2 or 3 deliverables in the early part of the year, and that has cost associated with that. That becomes a match, basically.
Those are being worked on now.
Those are all being worked on.
Mhm.
Is the conservation agreement done yet?
It's being worked on. It's
It's
in
a
the hands,
process.
it's in hands of
Wildlands Trust.
Wildlands Trust and others to look at it, make sure
Right.
it's right. Wildlands Trust has agreed to hold the conservation restriction.
And part of the stipulation of the MVP grant that was received, which was received for luckily the full amount that was negotiated. One of the stipulations is that the town has to do a match to it, and it's a 1% match.
Just one, not 10?
Correct.
No, the contract came through as 1.
The letter says 10, the contract says 1, the contract wins.
So we're only doing 30,000?
Yeah.
Roughly.
So we just have to come up
Well, is
with
it of the purchase price or is it of the grant? Is the grant the same thing?
The grant,
the grant, which is the same.
1% of the grant.
The purchase price is the same as the grant?
Yes. So the town's looking at, they have to pay Wildlands Trust 18,000.
There's some, I don't get into the numbers, but there's a several numbers in there. The town will have to pay for some of the legal fees, that kind of stuff. We can't pay for that. It's called, if we pay for the town's responsibility, it's called supplantation. We can't do that. So we have to find extra money beyond what the town's paying people to make the match go. So that's going to be, we sent an email this week to the town manager with a list of things that we thought should be included in their application just to cover all the bases. So it's a work in progress. They want to be, it has to be done by the 30th of June. And those deliverables are in the early part of the year next year. And there's a number of other things that have to be met, so.
Okay, good. Anything else on Hanson's Farm? Okay, moving on to project updates, projects in process, styles and hat improvements. It's coming along. There's still the issue of that landlocked piece of property and how the town is handling that.
The town's working on that right now.
Yeah, so they are, and Carlton and I walked the start of it because I remembered seeing, and Mark remembered seeing no trespassing signs, bright orange signs, but those are all gone as of this morning.
This is a valid claim on that land.
Yes. They're working, the lawyers are negotiating, hopefully talking. So that part of the trail closest to the river, opposite Crapo Street, the cleaners, is sort of on hold, or is on hold until an agreement is reached on that piece of property, a decision. One of the things that it wasn't part of this improvement, but instead of a future project, I'm going to kind of throw it in here because it all goes.
It's fine.
There's a old kiln there, and plus there's a old brick wall. We're not sure if they're on town property or if they're on the homeowner's property there. I'd like to see those preserved. The kiln goes back to God knows when for
when they made bricks.
when they made bricks. So that's something for us to look at too, but I'd like to suggest to the town, that actually I've suggested it before, that they do a survey of that land to see where the borders are, because it's a big open field and it's like, where does the town property end and the private owner? But other than that, the trail's getting a lot of use. Signage will hopefully be up soon.
What percent do you say completion is?
I say the only part really left is that last trail that goes by the easement right there. It's a sewer department easement. I'd say that's
I'd say,
in the sign.
I would say 80 to 80, somewhere between 80 and 85%, something
Right.
like that.
And the lower parking lot, I don't know what they're doing with that. It looks like the curb cut goes through the start of the Chinese restaurant property, which doesn't make sense, right by it someday. You go by it, it looks like it's cutting in through that corner. Something has to be done. If it's just to leave that parking lot is gravel or what, we're not sure for that. Then the walkway going up the hill to the main parking lot has a guardrail up against Route 18, but not the other side. And it's a big drop. I'd like to see something put in there so somebody doesn't fall off of it. But it does get a lot of use, the trails. Next, project in process, Hemlock Drive windows replacements.
I can do that. I got an email that they have a contractor to do the work. They're making the award as do paperwork for that right now. And basically, the start date will be in the spring, and I've been invited to their kickoff meeting.
Good, thank you. Questions or comments on that? Okay, Parthenon Freeze.
Work has been done. There's a plan in place where to hang those. The cost for strengthening the area that we're going to hang it just right inside the front door of the Academy building. There's a bid cost for that, and that we don't have enough money in the account. So we will be submitting or the town will be submitting to us the cost of doing the strengthening. Once that's done, it will be a contract awarded. The people will do the work, and then the freeze would be installed. And we have a budget that's available for doing that installation. Everything works out, we may see a little bit of money returned to the town, to our coffers at that point, but that's to be decided over the next 3 months.
What is the cost to strengthen the walls?
To strengthen the walls, yes, right now the cost is $4,600.
Will the freezes be on the first floor or on the second floor?
They'll be, when you come in the front door of the Academy building, you have the sliding doors that open automatically.
Right.
As you step inside there, look up, and they'll be on that hallway area with those walls that are up above there. So they'll be up higher. You know where the circle, you know where the access to the hole to the basement where you can look in? It'll be just between that and the sliding doors I just described. And one of the things I haven't added into this is we need to do a plaque about the history of those. So I'm going to be putting together a cost estimate for that. So we have a plaque that describes it. It'll be inside the building.
Yep.
Okay. Other questions or comments? Okay, moving on. Project updates for completed projects, townhouse, and these are as they completed as far as CPC funds are involved. They might still be working on the building itself or the property. But as far as the CPC part, it's completed. And they're just waiting for final reports from Josh and the town manager's office. The townhouse, Old State Farm Trails, which we pay for the engineering. 2 Broad Street properties that we just mentioned for the second parking lot for Stiles and Hart. Summer Street Mobile Station property and rebinding of the 1894 death records book. They need final reports. Josh, will you just let us know if you need anything from us for those?
If he's not there, but I will say that we did receive finally the Mass Historic report from the oversight people. We did receive a copy of that, so we know what was done and who paid for what, that kind of thing. So that was a holdup. Old State Farm Trails, we just got a great update from Kitty in terms of what was done there. So we now know more what our money was spent for. Broad Street, I think the deed restriction has to be filed, and that has to be brought in, incorporated within the conservation restriction there that's already in place. That's taking some time, maybe a little bit more than we want. Summer Street is same thing. They have a park grant. That park grant requires a deed restriction. CPA requires a deed restriction because it was an open space acquisition. And we're waiting to figure out if those two deed requirements can be merged or if we need separate deeds. So we're trying to work that out with the town. I have no idea as what's going on with Summer Street Park. I just know that the grant that they got has to
have a plan.
It has to have a plan, but they have to start working on it by July 1st, 2025. That's what the contract says.
Okay, hopefully it'll be extended because it's coming quick. Okay, next is the Samuel Edson book. CPC had voted a couple months ago to have the book sent to us for review. We've received it. The handwritten part is in rough shape, but we've checked with Carlton, has brought it up to the NDCC,
Restoration firm, and
NEDC.
double C. Anyway, it's up there. They've given us a price for restoring the book. They've given us a cost for actually digitizing. Digitizing is not, I want to make it really clear, digitizing is not historic preservation. Typically, that's not available. You can't fund it with CPA funds. However, if you have a project where they're restoring the book and making it refurbished, whatever, not refurbished,
Making it whole.
restoring it, then you could have an adder for this digitization. And I have put together those costs in terms of an application that I believe the town manager has agreed to submit to the CPC for January action.
How much?
In the restoration process, are they removing any foxing on the pages of the handwritten texts?
Removing what, sir?
Removing foxing, the brown spots on the pages?
We're going to do their best. I can send you the, I will send you the proposal that they said. We'll get it out to you guys before that. But the bottom line cost for that is on the order of 13K.
That's for the restoration or
For the,
including the
no,
purchase?
for the book, purchase of the book, the digitization of the book, the book purchase itself, and then shipping and insurance. I put some numbers in for shipping and insurance just in case they send it back.
Mhm.
So we're looking at somewhere around 13,000 from historic preservation funds.
Okay, and
That sounds to me like a pretty good price, because that kind of work is enormously expensive, enormously. Because I've had that work done, I've had foxing removed, I paid $2,500 to have foxing removed from a print, just one print. So it's very expensive work. That's a good price.
I will send the thing, the proposal to you, and then you can give us some input, and also the historical commission for sure, give us some input on what, if you think it's okay.
right,
Okay.
Calhoun has put together a preliminary application. We're not sure who should actually submit.
No, Blythe said she would submit it.
Right, she would submit it. So we'll have that in time for the January meeting. Plenty of time to review it. Okay, moving along. There's another meeting. I know a few people want to get to. Potential new projects, Jenny Leonard Park, we've talked about it before.
Can I say one thing on that, Calvin?
Yes,
That, I think was the council meeting last night?
Yeah.
What did you guys do with the right of first refusal for the open space? You granted it?
Yeah.
That
No,
only,
you put it to committee, or
Oh.
you held it?
Held it
You
at
haven't
council
voted on it
level,
yet.
held it at council level.
but I think that only included the big piece because it actually specified a piece in it. I don't think it included the Jenny Leonard piece behind it.
Okay, so there's two things. There's the Jenny Leonard Park, that town owned.
Correct.
Then that parcel is 10 acres roughly, and it's to the south of that development with some land that goes all the way across the northern border of the Jenny Leonard Park. And that is what's being refused on, all of that.
No, I think it's the land on the other side.
I don't believe so. It's 8 acres. I can check on it.
But the refusal wasn't for like 60 acres or 40 acres. It was for 8.
Mark, you may recall, I don't think it
so,
was more like 8 acres.
Because it was Wildlands Trust that was going to take it, and they took the piece on Magnolia. So we can talk about that later, but that would be great if we could get that if we could get that little piece. We don't want the big piece. We
No.
want that to go to Wildlands Trust.
what, the pieces we walked up the hill,
Right.
is that what you're saying for Wildlands Trust?
No, there's another much bigger piece that is contiguous with a piece that they just took along the river.
No, that's,
Oh, on the other
there's
side.
2 parts. There's a northern side, that's true. This one here, I believe, is the southern piece.
I'd have to look at it because it said in there.
They didn't put a parcel number.
It
That's
said
the
in their
problem.
order, there was a parcel number, and if you looked at it,
Yeah.
it said it referenced the plan, and it said common open space.
Yes, that's what the card calls it right now, common open space.
We can look at it, but hopefully that's still available.
I
for this
just, so you're aware, I did ask the council to make sure whenever they make the decision that access to the Jenny Leonard Pond Park, the parking lot and that trail that was developed by the company back then into the Jenny Leonard Park, I asked that is not compromised in terms of access.
Okay.
But that means
I
we need to look at the
I can look
details.
it up. I didn't know if you guys knew off the top of your head, but I think what they're trying to transfer to Wildlife Trust is that other big piece,
Okay.
not that small.
And that's
So
across the street.
The one across the street, it's called open space and retention basin. That has that language in the card. The one on the southern side.
But I think what you're looking at is, I think you're looking at the town assessors map, and not the subdivision approval.
I'm looking at the card, the town's card for that parcel.
Well, we can look at it later. I'm just gonna type it.
But I would prefer, appreciate you engaging a little bit more if you can, because of you know, I'm a layman in this stuff.
When I read the request the other night that they had, and I saw Jenny Leonard Park on this agenda, I felt a little bit better. I'm like, I think what the council is refusing is the piece that we want to go to Mag.
But they haven't refused it yet. They've
Right.
held on to it.
Right.
It's been recommended for refusal by the town employees.
Right, but if that's the big piece, that's the right thing, I think.
Yeah.
But it's the smaller piece.
But if it's a small piece, and I thought that's what we're talking to Blake about, because we talked about it's not the retention, the catch basin.
We can talk about
Not to
that.
belabor it, but I think we have to look at the parcel that's called out.
Okay, all right.
And the town, actually, people may not know, the town, if you go to CED department, they have a online GIS system. And you can go right into any of those parcels and look at them. Okay?
Mark, when is your next council meeting?
7th of January.
Okay, I would like to definitely find out which piece of property it is.
The map should be provided.
Right, I think that, just quickly, I think that the town should accept it. And
Only accept the little piece, not the big common.
right, just what we walked that day,
Right.
that piece. Blythe had mentioned, and again, which piece of property we'll be talking, that the homeowners association was talking about putting it with Wildlands Trust. I'm going to reach out to Scott McFadden.
That would be okay too, because as long as they maintain access.
But do we know that for sure the HOA is going to do that?
Yeah, they already did, along the river, there's two neighbors, Latola did one, and then, so one was Latola property, the other one was Perkins property. Wildlands Trust a week or so ago already accepted and took over the Magnolia piece. I think what the first right of refusal is for is, I'm hoping it's for that Latola piece that's contiguous with that. There's a little piece across the street. You know, if Wildlands Trust took, we can figure that out.
Yeah.
Let's
We'll work on it.
work out
Good,
line.
thank you. Okay. Next, multifunctional fields behind the middle school. Parks and Recreation has a eligibility form that's just being signed by the acting town manager to put in 2 multifunctional fields there. But we can go over that more the next meeting.
To clarify the previous conversations when our guests were here, that will be a separate document, not for the Legion Field and other parts. This will be a separate eligibility form?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Correct. And that's being signed. Parks and Rec had it the other night. Basketball courts, as Mr. Reedy mentioned, Legion of Scotland Field, both are in dire shape and need to be. Rehabbed, if I have the right verb in there. So that will be down the line. Study of recreational land option, Legion of Scotland Fields, to see if things are, where fields can be set up and likewise.
So from that perspective, I'd like to ask the open space representative, the open space plan, did you get information as whether or not we have the grant to write that now? Because it's due, the new plan is due next year,
For us,
for open space.
yes. No, we don't have a plan. We're waiting for a grant to come through.
That's my question is, did that grant come through?
Not that
Because
we-
there was another grant that was out there. but-
Yeah, haven't heard. Eileen got a hold of people this week or sometime, and she said that they haven't heard anything as of yet. They're still waiting to hear. So nothing has been done on that whole thing.
And typically, the open space plan addresses active and passive recreation.
Right.
So I think we had talked about it having just Legion Field, but I think maybe the open space plan is the right place to go, personally.
Okay. New business, quickly, townhouse assessment.
Yeah, I'm very interested in getting, because the deed restriction on the townhouse, I'm very interested in identifying and defining what historic elements inside the building should be actually preserved, restored, whatever. There is a question, do we do it now or do we wait until we decide what we're going to do with the building? My personal preference is that we do it before, so that anybody that's wanting to reuse the building, they can have that information for the planning process. So
I totally agree. Yes,
I
to be
would,
done now.
I appreciate that support. We need to talk more about it, but I'm also going to reach out to the coalition has a circuit rider for historic, and I'm reaching out to that person tomorrow to see if I can get them to come down and help. I have another lead and somebody that could do that assessment for us, but right now I want to talk to the circuit rider because that supposedly costs no money.
Good.
Okay.
There's nothing been planned for using that facilities, I'm correct?
There are reports of possibilities, but the whole thing of reusing the building has been on hiatus for over a year.
And who does a person talk to make a proposal to?
Town manager.
Town manager?
And town manager will define things as to before and after her. So if it's something that would go down to a new town manager, then she'll defer. And that's good. Okay?
Okay, good to know, thank you.
Good. Anything else on that one? Okay, and we can talk about that more at the next meeting when Calvin has information on the rider. Committee liaison reports, unless somebody has something like pertinent, extra pertinent.
I missed the discussion somehow of the Samuel Edson book. Could somebody just reiterate that briefly?
That's what we talked about with.
I'll do it. Samuel Edson book, we have it in-house.
Okay.
It has several pages of handwritten information of cultural issues, coroner's reports. We have it in our possession, but right now it's up at Andover, being held there. They did the assessment, and the cost is about $13,000 to buy and to restore the book and digitize it.
Oh, I thought we were talking about the rebinding of the death records. Sorry. When I asked about this, I didn't realize that was the Samuel Edson book.
The death records book is another one that we had to have redone. The town we paid for the restoration, the town paid for the digitization.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, good. Again, unless a committee has something really pertinent, open space have anything?
We have a few things. One is a question, and we don't know who to direct it to, is the golf course. Is there going to be a conservation restriction put on that?
We've been asking the town manager that.
Yes.
And it's being looked into.
Being looked into?
Yes.
Okay. And just an informational thing, there's been 3 videos made, 3 different parks, Tuckwood, Carver, Pond, and Titicut. And they'll get up online very soon, if they're not already, to do a little walkthrough, and people can hit the video, and there's gonna be different ways to address it.
Can they be that's probably going on the open space page. Can they be shared to Parks and Recreation page?
Well, this is the big thing we talked about, is where is it gonna be shared? How do you get to it? How do you find it? Because that's always been the problem, is people can't get online and they can't directly find it because you have to go through this and that. It's really challenging to get there. So that's been sent to the IT department, but they also hope to get it on the 02324 page, Facebook and YouTube. So hopefully they're gonna hit a lot of areas where people can access it, but it is challenging. without a doubt. Yeah.
It
And that
definitely
did
is.
come up.
Can I interrupt for a second? Is Josh, you still on the meeting?
I don't think
Yes, I'm
that-
still here.
So the consultants for the ad hoc committee are here in the building.
Okay.
Can they set up, when we're done here, can they set up, are you running that meeting through Zoom for them?
No.
Who's running that meeting?
Is that meeting at 7:30?
Yes.
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, that would probably be Deborah Ward, the town council clerk.
Yeah. But that meeting is totally remote right
It
now?
was advertised as being a Zoom meeting.
Can we, after we finish here and we're just about done, because I know Carlton and I wanted to listen to that too, can we just set up the Zoom in here to watch it?
Josh can't because Debbie's got good control.
Yeah, Debbie has the control of that.
Okay, so we can't log into Zoom here.
Josh, you may want to reach out to the chair of that ad hoc committee.
Yeah, I'll call Debbie right now, and let her know that,
Thank you.
we're there and see if she needs me to invite this room.
Sorry about that.
Okay.
Invite this room here?
Yeah,
Everything-
just like I did today.
Yeah, he'll be able to invite you.
Okay, hang on.
Yeah.
If you can do that, you can do what we're doing.
Yeah, you two did
He'll
your.
be done in 5 minutes.
Okay.
Yep,
And I may be in person.
yep.
All right, let's move on.
Yep, the only thing, we talked about Parks and Rec already. I listened last night to the planning board meeting and I thought, great thing for housing, until I listened to specifics for the property over here. But my first thought was great until I heard, it's like,
Property over what?
one of the buildings.
Oh, 43 Central Square.
Right by the Masonic Lodge.
Yes.
There's a proposal before. the
Good
planning
meeting
board.
too, by the way. That was it. Jeff or Harry, Bill, anything?
Yeah, I have a comment, if it's okay.
Yep.
One of our goals is to encourage historic preservation of private properties or privately owned properties. And in the last few years, we have had 2 churches pull out of the application process because they were scared of the preservation restriction that was going to be imposed. And
Right.
it's that I know that we added a great deal of online information about preservation restrictions, but somehow that doesn't communicate effectively with a lot of lay people or private owners of historic properties. And I was wondering how we could address that communication difficulty so that we could encourage more owners of private historic properties to apply for CPC funds, who I'm afraid are going to be reluctant because of the preservation restrictions.
Great, good point. We can look into that more.
Yeah.
Research that.
Hey,
Good.
Gina.
Yeah, I know Debbie just is inviting us.
Yeah, if you guys are okay with that, she would be eternally
Yep.
grateful.
Yeah,
Okay,
we'll have a minute.
Yep, public comment? Okay, hearing none, our next meeting date is January 22nd. The venue to be determined. Call for motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Adjourn.
Boy, everybody jumped on that one. Discussion, none. Roll call, Carlton,
Hey,
Gina, yes, Maureen,
Yes.
Pat,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
Jeff, and
Yes.
Harry.
Yes.
Okay, it's unanimous. Meeting's adjourned at 7:30.
Do not
Thank
close.